You've probably heard it 1,000 times. Go plant-based to save the planet. It's one of the biggest selling points of the plant-based movement, the idea that reducing or eliminating meat from your diet helps the environment by reducing your carbon footprint, conserving water, and saving land. But is it really that simple? What if the farming practices behind some of the plant-based foods, like soy, corn, and wheat, have their own dark side? Today, we're going to dive deep into the myths surrounding plant-based diets and take a closer look at whether veganism is truly as sustainable as we've been told. The argument that plant-based diets use far less land than diets that include meat and dairy seems pretty convincing at first glance. After all, growing crops like soy, wheat, and vegetables should theoretically require less space than raising livestock, right? But here's the catch. The reality isn't as straightforward. While factory farming and feedlots are certainly land-intensive, regenerative livestock farming is a whole different story. Regenerative farming involves rotating livestock across pastures to prevent overgrazing and allows the land to recover, improving soil health and biodiversity. It even helps sequester carbon dioxide, pulling it out of the atmosphere and storing it in the soil. In fact, some studies suggest that well-managed regenerative animal farming systems can be carbon neutral or even carbon negative, meaning they absorb more carbon than they release. Animals like cows and sheep grazing on natural grasslands are part of a balanced ecosystem where their manure naturally fertilizes the soil. This kind of farming not only supports biodiversity, but also helps regenerate the land, making it healthier and more resilient. So when you consider regenerative animal farming, the idea that plant-based diets automatically save land begins to look more complicated. Now, let's talk about monocropping, a practice that's commonly used to grow the staples of many plant-based diets, like soy, corn, and wheat. Monocropping means planting the same crop in the same field year after year, which might seem efficient at first, but it comes with serious environmental costs. For starters, monocropping depletes the soil of its nutrients, and over time, this degradation leads to more reliance on synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. These chemicals leach into the environment, causing water pollution and harming local ecosystems. It's a vicious cycle. As soil quality drops, more land is needed to sustain crop yields, leading to further environmental harm. Monocropping also strips away biodiversity. Large fields of a single crop can wipe out natural habitats, displacing wildlife and disrupting entire ecosystems. This might be a major blind spot for those who advocate for plant-based diets, because while plant-based foods may not directly involve the killing of animals, the industrial farming practices required to grow those crops are doing significant damage to the environment and wildlife. When you weigh the environmental cost of monocropping, the idea that plant-based diets are inherently better for the planet becomes much less clear-cut. Water use is another critical factor in the sustainability debate. It's often argued that plant-based diets use significantly less water than raising livestock. While it's true that animal farming can be water-intensive, especially in factory farms, this comparison often ignores the heavy water use required to grow certain plant-based crops. Crops like almonds and rice, which are common ingredients in plant-based diets, require massive amounts of water, particularly in regions already facing water scarcity. For instance, almond farming in California consumes more water than all the residents of Los Angeles combined. And when crops like soy and corn are grown using large-scale irrigation methods, the water usage is just as high as some livestock farming practices. When you add in the energy required to process these crops into plant-based meat alternatives, the water savings often touted by veganism don't seem as impressive. Another key argument in favor of plant-based diets is the belief that they help reduce carbon emissions, especially methane from livestock. It's true that industrial livestock farming, particularly cattle, contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. But the carbon footprint of plant-based foods isn't as simple as it seems. Regenerative farming, as we discussed earlier, helps sequester carbon in the soil, mitigating the impact of methane from livestock. On the other hand, monocropping and large-scale plant production don't offer these same benefits. In fact, monocropping actually leads to carbon being released into the atmosphere, further contributing to climate change. Moreover, the production of plant-based meat alternatives like Beyond Burgers or Impossible Foods is far from carbon neutral. The highly processed ingredients in these products require significant energy for production and transportation, contributing to a much larger carbon footprint than many realize. While they might seem like a more eco-friendly option at first glance, the full life cycle of these products, from sourcing ingredients to processing and shipping, often ends up being just as resource-intensive, if not more so, than traditional meat production. When it comes to biodiversity, regenerative animal farming has a clear advantage. Grazing livestock on natural grasslands helps maintain and even enhance biodiversity. The presence of animals encourages plant growth, supports the food chain, and creates a more balanced ecosystem. In contrast, monocrop fields are one of the leading causes of biodiversity loss in agriculture. By dedicating massive amounts of land to a single crop, monocropping eliminates a wide variety of plant species and makes it impossible for many animals, birds, and insects to survive. This, in turn, disrupts the natural balance of the ecosystem, leading to a decline in species that are crucial for pollination, pest control, and soil health. Beyond the impact on land-based biodiversity, monocropping also harms aquatic ecosystems. The runoff from fertilizers and pesticides used in monocrop farming leads to eutrophication, a process where excess nutrients cause algae blooms in water bodies. This depletes oxygen levels in the water, making it difficult for fish and other aquatic life to survive. The environmental effects of monocropping are far-reaching, and when you look at the entire impact, it's hard to claim that plant-based diets are automatically better for ecosystems. Water use in farming is a topic that needs more nuance. While critics of animal farming often point to the large amounts of water needed to raise livestock, the reality is that much of the water used in regenerative livestock farming comes from natural rainwater that falls on grazing lands. These systems require far less irrigation than crops grown through monocropping, which often requires significant artificial irrigation, especially in drought-prone areas. When you factor in the water use for crops like soy, rice, and almonds, the water savings touted by plant-based diets don't seem as clear-cut. The narrative that plant-based diets are inherently more sustainable than animal farming is an oversimplification. While reducing reliance on factory-farmed meat can have positive environmental impacts, the practices needed to sustain a fully plant-based food system come with their own set of challenges. Sustainable animal farming, particularly through regenerative practices, offers a more balanced approach. It's not about choosing plants over animals. It's about creating a food system that integrates both plant and animal farming in ways that work with nature, not against it. Sustainability isn't about labeling one diet as good and another as bad. It's about recognizing the environmental trade-offs involved in food production. Both animal farming and plant-based agriculture can harm or help the planet, depending on the farming practices employed. If we truly want a more sustainable future, we need to shift our focus to farming methods that promote regeneration, biodiversity, and carbon capture. Whether through regenerative animal farming or more sustainable plant farming practices, the future of food lies in working with ecosystems to create resilient food systems that support both human health and the planet. The truth is, sustainability isn't as simple as we've been led to believe. It's time to rethink our assumptions and focus on farming practices that regenerate the land, protect biodiversity, and support a healthier environment. Whether you choose to eat plant-based foods, animal products, or a combination of both, the key is to support farming methods that are truly sustainable and benefit the planet as a whole.